Nothing like an early morning jog. Phew. What? Oh, stop it.
Dear Tim and Moby, my class has been learning a lot about the different roles people played within the Vietnam War. My teacher started talking about the role women play, but the textbooks do not mention anything about women's involvement. Can you tell me more about it, please? Thanks. Central History class.
Sure thing.
The role of women within rebellions and resistances in Vietnam can be traced back to 41 through 43 AD. The Trung sisters led the first resistance movement against Chinese occupation after 247 years of domination. Trung Trec and her sisters organized local people, and in the long run they were able to rally up about 80,000 soldiers, which encompassed 36 women generals. The Trung sisters continued to be a staple symbol for Vietnamese resistance and nationalism. This paved the way for women to continue to be involved within similar movements and make their mark.
Yes and no. As time evolved, women were not as valued throughout the war time period. Many women contributed to different aspects of the war. Some fought alongside men, while others fought simultaneously, fulfilling their familiar roles. Why don't we track the different types of women who contributed to the war?
This is an example of propaganda that was used during the Vietnam War. Because the Vietnam War had many contributors and actors, many people forget the role and impact women played during this time. No! It's a metaphor, Moby, to show how women had to take on many roles during the war. The gun shows how women had to be fighters, while the baby shows how women were still expected to take care of their family. And it wasn't just those two roles. Come with me. Let's look at some more propaganda photos. Professor Le Thi Nam Thuy has described the role of women as one hand harvests, one hand with a gun, one hand with hammers, one hand with gun, one hand with pen, one hand with gun. I don't think there were any robot women fighting in the Vietnam War, Moby. Sorry to disappoint you, but there were women who worked on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, repairing roads, setting traps, and guiding trucks. Here, come look at this poster. This woman represents the women in North Vietnam who worked in the fields to feed both civilians and soldiers. And here we have a poster celebrating the determination of women titled 4,000 Determined American Aircrafts. Those aircrafts might be determined, but considering they're falling out of the sky, I think this lady is more determined. Vietnam has a continuity of women leadership, as we saw with the Trung sisters, but there was, and continues to be, societal oppression of women. Before Vietnam's nationalist movements, women were expected to be fully subservient to their husbands and weren't considered as valuable as men. However, as intellectuals began contemplating national independence, they could not ignore the independence of women. Exactly. Considering that the image of a woman contributing to the war effort connects both to Vietnamese cultural identity through icons like the Trung sisters and the ideals of progress from the national independence movement. Using women to represent the war effort seems like a natural choice, not only in propaganda art. Women were also often the voices of North Vietnam's underground radio. I agree. However, we should remember that most of these women revolutionaries were also ordinary people.
Although many women had a lineage of people who supported the resistance, many had no affiliation to the war besides constantly seeing the bloodshed the war brought. Not quite where I was going with that. It was more likely that women felt that they could help towards the nationalist movement in Vietnam while simultaneously atoning for the loss of their loved ones. Anyway, some women like Mrs. Khan are encouraged by the environment to take action. Mrs. Khan moved to Vietnam from Cambodia and realized the conditions the American and French caused were equally bad conditions for people. This prompted her to become a cook, and she was later recruited by the communists and became a part of a special force of undercover agents. Not entirely. It was more of a guerrilla tactic. These women used their positions as women to, from the belly of the enemy, as one of the female NFL commander, Nguyen Thi Dinh once said. You're taking me too literally. Guerrilla tactics is just a form of warfare where small groups take action. For example, Q organized a drinking party and got all the soldiers drunk. Once they were drunk, she snatched their guns and signaled to the other guerrillas to take over the post. These small attacks within the enemy's base allowed women to be more strategically involved within the war and helped their movement move forward. Vietnamese women gained the name long-haired warriors as their involvement within the war increased. The American troops soon became targets of small attacks that included planting bombs or destroying operations. The three-pronged attack, the armed struggle, political struggle, and politicizing campaigns among the enemy troops always led the women to victory.
Cả đầu lẫn vai, gần sát vào, sát hẳn xuống đất.
Moby, you missed the point. The role of women often go overlooked, especially within war periods. Without the involvement of women during the Vietnam War, the different wars fought against the French, Americans, and South Vietnamese regular army would not have been successful or even possible.